All right,
Hi.
I'm going to kick off. Good morning and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Sharon DeForce. I head up production for Kinetic and we'll be kicking off today's digital discussion. This is the first of a two-part series hosted by Pivotal Data, which is looking at cloud enablement and how it impacts your business and your customer. Part 2 will be running next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. So please, after this, make sure that you do register for this series. Tanya and Francois will be joined by Pierre van Leyenveld, who will be going through the triumphs and pitfalls of cloud enablement. Today, we've been particularly in conversation with King Price, and we'll be talking about laying the foundation of a cloud-enabled future. They're going to take us through how cloud better equip them to manage the evolving customer. Before we kick off, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping things. On your right-hand side, you will see that there's a chat section. This is your platform to be able to engage with us. So if you can, please let us know who you are, who is part, which company you're coming from, and your job title, and let us know that you are a part of the webinar today. And during the course of the webinar, please feel free to ask questions. We will be answering the questions towards the end of the webinar, as we want everybody to be able to go through their talking points and to have a discussion uninterrupted. If it is an urgent question, please just let me know and I will feed it through to our moderator. Speaking of our moderator and our panel, I would like to introduce them. We have Herman Singh, who is the CEO and founder of Future Advisory. We also have Francois Swanepoel, who is the partner and IT operations manager for King Price Insurance. And lastly, we have Tanya Phillips, who is the COO of Pivotal Data. So welcome, everyone. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Can everyone switch on their mics, please?
My mic's on. Can you hear me?
There we go. I can hear you, Herman.
Yeah,
Tanya?
I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great. We've got everyone right. So I'm going to hand over to you, Herman. Can you kick off?
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Sharon. And welcome to Tanya Phillips and Francois Swanepoel. Really great and super to be here with you. And very excited about this topic, very close to my heart, laying the foundation for a cloud-enabled future, a case study. And we're going to spend a lot of time really talking with Francois and Tanya about the experience and journey in building out some of the cloud foundation that's really helped King Price build a business that's rapidly becoming a global business. Just to set the scene, I thought it might be useful to just share a few thoughts around the nature of the journey that we are all on. And I like referring to this as Frankenstein architecture. Francois, Tanya, can you just confirm you can see my screen, please?
100%.
Thank you so much. Right. So I'm just going to talk about what I call Frankenstein architecture. It's really this challenge that everyone has, which is how do you marry the legacy systems with the cloud? And this is, I guess, is the journey that Tanya and Francois have been on. The real question, I guess, is who's Frankenstein, right? And I always thought Frankenstein was the monster, but actually Frankenstein was the doctor who created the monster from hell. And I guess that means that our existing legacy systems and infrastructure is really the Frankenstein, is really the monster, and our historical business and IT teams are the Frankenstein. We often get this wrong. So how was this monster created? Well, it was created over years of layered installation of technology and applications and servers and connectivity and APIs, and so you end up with this mess. And so as you go in, if you look at a bank, for example, of any financial services company, you can see we've got applications, we've got APIs, we've got connectivity, we've got big backends, we've got multiple platforms, multiple channels, and multiple silos, and then you create this absolute mess. Your application integration becomes a mess, and as we say, the system was never broken; it was built this way. And so the poor people trying to keep the system running really struggle because you've got this really broken and scattered and fragmented system, which is obviously very difficult to pivot as you go forward and launch new solutions because of the way the applications are split. At the same time, you've got server sprawl. You've got multiple servers. You can't just spin up a resource when you need it. So you've got hardware fragmented, software fragmented, and of course, your data is also similarly split. You've got multiple data architectures. You've got data trapped in silos, and it's very difficult to access all the data in a single store. And the problem, of course, is that Frankenstein is still hard at work. So if you go in and you have a look at the money that's going in, you can see money is still going into existing hardware and software projects. And so we're still building Frankenstein's monster out every day. So cloud, I guess, is part of the answer, right? And there are other things to think about, obviously, other than cloud, but cloud is a critical part of the answer. It is a difficult journey, as we're going to hear shortly, but it's absolutely critical to number one, embark on this journey, and number two, to do it right. And I'm hoping we are going to hear from the pair that we have on the panel. The big thing is today, most of the money today is spent on business operations. So 57% of money in IT is spent on business operations, 26% is spent on incremental business change, and only 16% is spent on business innovation. Imagine if you could swap these labels around, right? Imagine if 16% was the cost of business operations and 57% was the investment in business innovation. And this is what we are trying to do. This is the nirvana. This is the holy grail. What if we could swap this pie chart around? Now, there are good reasons for us to kill this monster of the legacy applications. And moving to cloud applications from legacy has a number of advantages. Firstly, you're going to decrease complexity, confusion, and information waste at the back end. You're going to improve total cost of ownership. And obviously, once you're on the cloud, you're going to improve things like scalability, speed to deploy, and the ease of managing the system. Now, cloud is actually, in a sense, the end of a multi-decade journey. We started out with mainframe, we went to client server, then web, then services-oriented architecture, and then eventually cloud. And we're not even sure that pure cloud is the end of the game. What made all of this possible was the ability to move from rigid, siloed, manually assembled services to a dynamic, shared, and transparently assembled services environment. And that allowed us to transform IT into an efficient and adaptive service provider. Now, here's the problem, right? The problem is you can't just go from the left to the right overnight. You don't just throw a switch. And as we're going to talk about on the panel just now, this is a really complicated task. It's like you giving a patient a heart transplant while the patient is running a marathon. So the challenge is, we go from traditional on-premises, and then we move towards infrastructure as a service. We go to platform as a service. We go to software as a service. And so we are gradually moving away so that we start to virtualize more and more of the assets within the IT environment. The same thing applies to storage. We need to slowly move our storage over from the legacy storage, which is in purple, to the beige storage. And the sense is that this is a gradual process. You're not going to see this happen overnight. And so you're starting to see budgets increase. The world market for cloud is growing relatively rapidly. It's almost 3 times higher in the last 5 years. And it's very clear that this is the future for most businesses. Now, transforming this monster is not easy. It's quite difficult. And I just want to leave you with a few caveats and some thoughts around how to transform this monster. Here's some of your barriers. The one barrier is, as you move stuff out of your own premises, there are a lot of concerns about security. There's some challenges that some of the legacy applications won't run in the cloud. There are issues around the disruption to the business that could occur. COVID obviously came along and that complicated things. And of course, there's a lack of internal skills to manage the migration. There could be budget issues, and after a while, top management stops supporting this. So a few best practices. One of them is you do it gradually. It's phasing. It's not a big bang approach. And you slowly move less sensitive information. You migrate that into the cloud first, and you gradually move the rest of the information over. What are some of the risks? Because you don't want to create a new legacy, a new Frankenstein, a new ball of mud, right? So don't replace one monster with another. You don't want to create Son of Frankenstein here. So part of what you want to be thinking about is, am I going to go private? Am I going to go private off-premises as a third party? Am I going to go private on-prem? Am I going to go off-prem at some kind of internal facility? Am I going to go a virtual private cloud? Or am I going to go pure public cloud? So there's a number of options in here. In hybrid probably is the way that you're going to go. You're probably going to go multi-cloud. And in the future, I think many systems in the world are going to probably find that when they go Salesforce, that sits in Google maybe, and if you're using Dropbox, that may sit in Amazon, and if etc. So multiple clouds seem to be the order of the day. And then in closing out, one of the big challenges, if you do this, is making sure that you've got all of these tools, that you've got the ability to manage migration, backup, storage, identity, and obviously monitoring and analytics. So these are all a key part of this journey. So thank you so much. I just wanted to share that with you before we now return to our panel and really open the discussion. You've seen some of, I guess, the best practice, the history, how we got here, and some of the thinking around the journey forward. Now that's the theory. I'm talking to two people who've done it, and I really want you to add color. And if my presentation is wrong, just tell the audience that. So Francois, let's start with you. Just give people a feel for, I guess, what you do, what business you're in, and what you were trying to achieve.
Yeah. So thanks, Herman, and I think we at King Price are known for doing insurance different, having fun with a little bit of madness. And going down this cloud journey, it's quite important to have a partner that has got the ability to actually take your hand and lead you into this journey in order for you to actually move forward into this unknown. And I think King Price has been around for since 2012. We started off as a 25 employee company, and we've grown the organization 40% year on year for the last 5 years to 1,200 employees with a call center of almost 600 people. So, like Arman, rapid growth in any organization brings about a lot of the challenges that you would find in that Frankenstein environment, and sometimes you have to do what you have to do to make sure that the business can grow at the same pace. And I think one of the challenges that we've had over the last 4 years was to actually make sure that we've got a solid telephony system and a call center that's reliable to service our clients. So we in King Price went down this journey for last just over 2 years, finding new telephony and PBX system, replacing open source and legacy systems with a product that we can trust to service our clients. And I think that is where our journey started with Pivotal Data.
So Francois, you are really talking about quite a large end-to-end transformation here. I mean, you mentioned legacy applications, you mentioned channels, you're mentioning back-end infrastructure. Tanya, what made this project so challenging for you on the Pivotal side?
I think there were a few challenges. So when we started off, and I think this is quite typical, but there's naturally a tendency to treat, to have a supplier client relationship as opposed to a partner, because that's built over time as trust is built, right? So I think one of the challenges right up front, we often refer to phase 1 and phase 2, which was part of our journey. In phase 1, I think, there was some of the challenges involved, for example, building that trust, introducing competence and a level of skill that everyone could buy into, believe in, address the unknowns in a way that people felt, they started to build confidence within, with the team at Pivotal as well as the product that we were offering. I think also when we started off, Francois, you can keep me honest here, but I don't think we did a very good job. So one of the challenges that I'd like to share with everyone that's on here today is I don't think we did a very good job of clearly benchmarking and defining what metrics, what good looks like. Because, you always want to measure. So when you implement something like we did and you embark on that type of project, it is going to unsettle everybody. It's going to show up, for example, process inefficiencies. It may show up some areas of competence issues. And the natural thing to do, particularly with your users, and I'm an operational person, I've spent nearly 20 years in ops in a call center, is to defend and blame the system, right? So, right up front, I think one of the key things was if things went awry, we didn't have those set benchmarks to kind of, embed, and we did that far better as we matured and engaged the team in terms of phase 2. And then I think the third one is possibly really rethinking your change management process. So we certainly kicked off with, with the right kind of project and project plan. But given the complexity of the solution we embarked on, I think we underestimated the change management process and how to navigate that with the users, for example. So I would say those are probably some of the key challenges that we embraced at the start and had to overcome together.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. I'm sure. Yeah, go ahead, Francois.
Yeah, I always like to think about it as like before you get married, when you start dating your wife and you need to learn how to live with each other and each other's quirks and things. In the beginning, when you're dating, there's a couple of chats that you're having before the day that you are getting married, and it is I almost say it almost as the same journey that we went on with Tanya and the team.
That's brilliant.
That's very good. I'm going to call that the love goggles problem.
That's it.
That's very good.
There were some good facts in between that as well, because as you can imagine, things break no matter how much you test them. People let you down. But really, what's important is that you build that relationship so that you tackle those challenges together to find solutions as opposed to point fingers to find blame. So, and I think that's really been key to how we've progressed the project and the relationship that we now have, and how we're supporting the growth of King Price, which has been awesome to watch and to be a part of.
Can you, and Tanya, can you maybe just add some color to use the word benchmarks? I'm not sure that I fully understand what you mean by those benchmarks. Do you mean setting performance benchmarks?
So let me unpack it for you. I'll give you the real case scenario. So when we initially deployed a POC within the sales team. And I think what's important is, when sales don't make their target for whatever reason, and you're in the process of deploying a new solution, it's going to be because of the solution, right? I mean, that's going to be the natural part, I suppose, point of discussion. And I think what we didn't do is kind of benchmark and say, okay, these are the things that we anticipate the tool to enhance or not. So what does good look like? And it is things, it could be conversion rates, for example. It could be, but you got to be really aligned on what is staying the same, and are we comparing like for like? So it's no use that on the previous system, maybe different databases were being used or leads were being accessed. And then when you go on a new tool, that mix is different. And then the outcome may be influenced. So there was a lot of discussion around that. So exactly what I'm saying. So what are what stays the same as you progress with this POC, so that you're able to then take the noise out of the system or out of the project and say, okay, this is how we've impacted performance negatively or positively, but this is where we're at. So that's kind of metrics. What happened when you were in the POC. Metrics. Yeah. And what stays the same.
Excellent. So Francois, let's go back to you. I mean, I think Tanya's left us with a very good point here, which is there was clearly certain, let's call it targets, metrics, benchmarks. What were these challenges that you set benchmarks to? Was it around cost? Was it speed of implementing new solutions, or was it around number of new leads generated or retrieved? Or what were the challenges that you were experiencing that led you to do this project?
So I think one of the biggest case studies was for us to, or drives for us, was to get a more sophisticated technology where we can service our clients on different channels and in different ways, where the traditional telephony was not actually giving us the value that we needed. And I think the big thing is, and like Tanya was saying, I think one of the biggest pitfalls around cloud and the migration to cloud is a lot of the time we are sitting with a situation where business has got a mindset of we've always done it this way. So we hear that a lot, and we don't necessarily have the ability to always have the transparency in the environment to make sure that we actually can trust the data. And it's a journey. It's genuine. We've gone through a couple of these iterations where you physically have to sit with business and go through the data for them to actually accept the technology and accept the data as we are moving on. You also have to be very wary about changing. So organizational change is a big thing. You need to be able to actually introduce this change on a proper, set, measured way. And then also you need to be able to adapt to the cloud technology and not always to adapt the technology to business. And I think it's a chat that you need to have with the vendor and the partner and the business before you go down this journey as well.
Mm. Okay, so it was a multiplicity of problems in the business really that led you here, and explain to me why cloud migration was critical. I mean, how do you decide that was the answer, right? I mean, there's a lot of vendors out there who may say the answer is cloud. What's the question, right? And I mean, I think you folks clearly kind of figured out that we need to get to cloud. How did you make that decision?
So definitely. So we came out of the environment with multiple PBX systems. We had a couple of pain points that we had to solve around being able to keep track of recording data and keeping mapping it back to customers and having a one solution that is fit for purpose and fit for business was definitely the starting point. For King Price, we are a lean, mean machine, and I think one of our biggest drives is to actually take these journeys with partners and leaning on the skill set and the ability of those partners give us the ability to actually get traction on a lot of these projects a lot faster than normal traditional companies would. Cloud also offers us flexibility within the environment, being able to expand at quite a rapid pace, and it just made sense at the end of the day not to own the software and the infrastructure anymore.
Very good. And Tanya, now that's Francois' comment, not to own the infrastructure, not to own the software. I mean, if you'd said that 5 years ago, CIOs would have a heart attack. Talk to me about how. Yeah. I'm pretty sure CIOs got into work early to get down to the data center to hug their servers, and kiss their license disks, because that gave us a sense of comfort. I mean, what was the role of your company in helping, I guess, the client make that transition? Because it is an emotional transition, and it's part of that change management point that you made earlier.
100%. I think, look, it was absolutely part of the sales cycle and part of the solution that we pitched right up front to the team that embarked on, looking for potential vendors and suppliers. So we offer various solutions, but I think the solution on the table and I suppose one of the unique solutions we have is our hosted managed services offering, where we do exactly that, where it's a full end-to-end. I mean, Francois can enlighten you, but it's, there's a service desk component that we run. We become part of the infrastructure, but it's our core business, which allows King Price the headspace to focus on their core business, which is insurance, and give them the peace of mind. And I suppose, this is what we eat, breathe, sleep. This is what makes, this is what Pivotal Data does. This is what we invest in. This is, it's purely about continually enhancing the skill sets around, these solutions, the development capability so that we can do complex integration and customization, the solutions team so that we're constantly working, with our customers like King Price to say, well, where are you going to and what is the best fit for solution for expanding into Europe, for example, or bringing on board Namibia, for example. So, and they've had some different solutions and tweaks. So I'd say that's really, what I suppose was our differentiator, what we like to think of as our differentiator, but exactly that partnering and saying, hey, you've got the best in the business here, so allow us to do our bit, and, that enables you to be the best at your game. And I think that's where you kind of get that, 1 + 1 = 3 type of scenario.
Yeah, so it's less selling, I guess, in a way, and more, I guess, coaching, advisory, almost, adding value to the thinking process rather than just trying to drop a solution.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And we often say we talk about solution selling, but you're right, it's so much more than that. I'll give you and when you go live as well, we've been very cognizant of the fact that when ops, for example, have challenged Francois and the team on site, maybe they haven't bought into a certain stat, hey, Francois, or something, our team will do screen share, will sit, we'll watch we'll actually go into the detail, we'll counsel, we'll talk about workforce management and what are your workforce management practices, because this is what the data is showing us, and really work with the team to and I want to say educate, but it's more than that. It's because if you are comfortable, if you have as a user of technology, if you're comfortable and you understand, that you then become the ambassador for that tool and you get less resistance. So we literally go down to so whatever challenge Francois and the team had was our challenge, and we would embark together with them to say, hey, if your team doesn't understand something, let's work together so that we can create that level of understanding. So definitely, and we call that operational excellence. It's just our fancy word, but it's really, it's kind of saying, we are far more than just, supplying, dropping a box, for example.
Got it. I mean, later on, I'm going to come back to you, Tanya, and ask you how you make money using that model, right? Because part of the challenge is you don't know how big this piece of cloth is when you start cutting, right? And, and Francois wants a fixed price. I mean, I get the vendor partner thing, but at the end of the day, the income statement has to read a cost. So I'm going to come back and pick up on that. Sure. I just want to kind of, no conversation today is complete without us talking about COVID. And I call people like you, by the way, I've coined this word. If you hear it anyway, remember I came up with it first. You heard it here first. I call people like you co-gladiators. I know it's a horrible word, but you folks are like gladiators of this COVID pandemic. I mean, because you really, number one, I think COVID made this urgent. So something that was, I guess, nobody supported, now suddenly is urgent. So Francois was under huge pressure to get this thing delivered, number one. Number two, Tanya, you and Francois had to do this whole thing remotely. So, I mean, Francois, why don't you start, and then I'll come to you, Tanya, to hear about how you had to work remotely. But Francois, talk to us about these two challenges. Nobody wanted it before. Now it's urgent, and you had to do the whole thing without an office.
Yeah, I think it was almost it's just over a year ago that we received a call to say, listen here, guys, we need to evacuate the building, and we need to send the 600-seat call center home to work from home. And I think it was at that stage we thought it's pretty much pie in the sky. It's never going to happen, and we all prepped, I think, for that stage for a 3-week turnaround lockdown, and we never thought what the impact of this long term is going to be on the business. And I think we rise to the challenge with our partners, and we managed to get the call center up and running within a very short amount of time, and sustain business and assist our clients through a very difficult time in history. And I think it is definitely the return on investment in the technology and scaling into cloud really paid off during this time, where we were really able to not only sustain on a technology basis, but also on a support basis. And if we just think about the service management component, getting people up and running at home, making sure that these guys are settled in and able to connect and able to work from home, was a mammoth task. And I'm very proud to say that King Price were able to keep its doors open during COVID, and not only keep our doors open, we were successfully able to launch a pay-as-you-drive product called Chili within a 6 weeks turnaround, with the help of our developers and a very much agile development cycle that we were able to deliver and make sure that we support our customers during this difficult time.
Well, I mean, it's an amazing story that you were able to just flip a switch and move 600 people to work from home. I mean, that's an amazing story. How long did that take you? Like, did you do it overnight?
We pretty much had a week. So we received the call, and the call was that we are closing the building in, I think the call came through on a Monday, and we pretty much closed the doors on the Thursday. So it happened quite quickly.
Okay, so that's an amazing story at an operational end. And I'm going to come back and ask you about how it helped you do business with your customers, right? In terms of selling just now. But Tanya, I mean, talk me through this, right? You were, I guess, living this together with Francois day by day, right?
I think what Francois forgets to tell you is we were still running a project, right, Francois? So we were actually like knee deep in the project, and then COVID hit, and we had to migrate these existing, users, and so we were literally tag teaming, and we would have our guys from the support desk, teaming, kind of collaborating with users, testing their connections, making sure that everything was working. And we did that together. But at the same time, we actually had another stream running, which was to continue the project, to continue the deployment of a whole bunch of features and functionality that we had promised. And and I think, Francois, your example of saying, that you were able to not only survive that, but pivot in that time and deploy a new product in 6 weeks. I think that talks to the fact that we could help with that we could focus on what we're good at, which gave the team the opportunity to do that. And then similarly, in lockdown and still working remotely, we've continued to do that collaboration supports, and we currently, as I said, expanded into Europe and you're doing all sorts of things. So but again, I think, Herman, what it does is business doesn't stop, right? And life doesn't stop. And what we were faced with COVID, in terms of the solution that we were deploying together, it actually made life easier. Because all of a sudden it demonstrated the value, the fact that we had the solution at play enabled that flexibility, that scalability, the remote working from home solution. So all of a sudden the value of the solution was so tangible that it almost gained traction, and we were able to get through a lot. So COVID actually worked in our favor, if you think about it.
I mean, we've all seen the cartoon, right, about who drove digitization of your company? CEO, CFO, COVID. Tick, tick, tick.
100%.
I've got two great questions here, and Francois, they're both directed at you. And don't feel bad, Tanya. One is about you, so we're talking about you. Amanda Shaw asks the question. Hi, Francois. What metrics did you agree on for what would look good on your cloud migration?
So I think there was definitely two phases around the project. So initially we did a rollout on Interaction Connect, which is a desktop-driven piece of technology around Genesis, and halfway through COVID, we made a very clear decision to move to a pure cloud environment, which gave us the ability to actually have the cloud migration, and the metrics around it was very simple. It was to actually make sure that we've got sophistication, scalability within the environment, and the return on investment in cloud was definitely around scalability. we've managed to actually grow our product during this time based on that. But I think also the metric that nobody actually talks about is the risk at not actually investing in technology. And I think the big drive was to actually make sure that we actually move in the right direction. Because we've seen during COVID and during this time, companies that's lagged behind on technology and had a lot of technical debt were the guys that weren't able to cope with a lot of the challenges and adversity that we saw during this time.
Okay, got it. And I've got another question here. Thank you. And thank you, Amanda, for that question. Thanks, Francois, for the answer. Another question for you, Francois, and please, folks, please keep the questions coming. It really helps enrich the discussion. Glanville Valentine, hi Glanville, asks the question, why did you choose Pivotal? I told you we were going to talk about you, Tanya.
So I think like I spoke about a relationship and dating earlier, and if I can go back to the analogy, I think like any relationship, whenever you hit a bit of a rocky patch, that relationship only goes one of two ways. It either goes sideways or it goes forward. And I think we've actually during a lot of the initiation of the project, we actually realized that culturally Pivotal was a great fit for King Price. And like I said earlier, King Price do insurance different than any other insurance in South Africa. We like to have fun with a little bit of madness. And I think Pivotal were able to keep up, and we are loving them for it.
But I mean, you probably didn't know this, and maybe that's the crux of Glanville's question. You probably didn't know this before you engaged them. I guess, speaking, I guess a bit clinically, what was it about the company that attracted you? Because you couldn't have known that when you met them. They were still in sales mode. So
I think our CIO was quite diligent when he went out to the task to actually find a provider and find technology that would suit the environment. And I think it was, you never know until you know. I think we've all been through these big IT projects, but I think the thing is you in the initial phase of the project, you can pretty much tell if the service provider is gonna be able to be a fit or not.
Lovely. Now, Tanya, I mean, this is an interesting journey, right? I mean, talking to the point that Francois made, it sounds like you didn't go big bang. It sounded like you started with a kind of pilot, moving to a project. Talk to us about how did you chunk this up and cut it up so that it becomes digestible? Number one, make sure it's not a high risk thing, and make sure that business gets value about it as you move through this process.
It was exactly that, and I think so. Francois alluded to it, and I'll fill in some color. Is when we started with the POC, I don't think it was an amazing, glaring, obvious success, if we're all really honest. So we embarked initially, chose a particular part of the business, deployed the solution, and then had to actually go back to the table and say, you know what? Let's challenge ourselves. Is it working? What is the feedback? How are we going to roll this out? And then collectively is exactly that. So we then said, okay, let's, I think honesty was at the core of it. What could we do better? What synergies were lacking? And then we did exactly what you said, is we chunked it down, and we then said, okay, let's focus. So there were various departments within King Price. We tackled customer care first. And we then said, okay, if we get it right in customer care, it's pretty easy to lift and shift that into retentions, for example, into some of the other businesses and into claims. And then that's what we did, is we built a project plan with the team over a period of time, obviously baked in loads of time for testing and I suppose user confidence. And that's what we did so that people could consume the solution and we could support it appropriately. And then exactly what Francois said, we were doing that, and then we also at a point said, you know what, there were some challenges in terms of we had initially deployed, Francois alluded to that, and there was a better solution. So then we got a team together and we then walked through, but together with our partner Genesis. And we actually then, so it was almost like a tripartite at one stage. And we kind of said, look, you know, we are transparent. We work in a way that says, you know what, if we're wrong, but so does King Price. And also we don't hide away. So although we're a goal partner for Genesis, we obviously own the relationship with our partners, but we would also always expose our partner to Genesis so that they understand they have access to, you know, a global team. And at one stage, we had a whole bunch of people from all over the globe that were bringing, you know, advice and solutions and ideas to the party, so that we could navigate some of those legacy processes, get the team comfortable with the solution, and then drive innovation and change as a result of that.
I think there was quite a key turnaround in this project as well. And you alluded to it earlier, where from time to time CIOs and CTOs love to kiss that license and that piece of hardware, and it was quite a big step for us to actually hand the keys to the kingdom over to Pivotal and say, guys, you're responsible for managed hosted servers. You need to make sure that you've got our backs. And I think once we trusted the guys to actually handle the piece of technology for us and assist us with growing it in our business, I think we made a lot of stride during that time. And there's hats off to the guys. There's phenomenal talent within Pivotal, and I think initially King Price thought that we knew how to do call center, but there's some guys that actually knows more than us, and it was having that realization was quite a big step for us.
Fantastic. So you basically chunked this project up, and I love your comment about competency and skill. I'm going to come back to that just now. I think it's a very critical point that you are making. I want to ask you a two-part question. Half of it's coming from Amanda again. So my first question is, did you go private cloud, public cloud, and if you went public, did you go multi? And I just need to understand, so you know, how did you make a decision about what kind of architecture to get to from a multi-cloud perspective? And as a second part of that question, Amanda asks, what was Francois' #1 priority app to move to the cloud? You spoke about moving less sensitive data first, but in COVID, I'm sure the need to move more critical apps to the cloud was prioritized. Francois, do you want to start, and then maybe Tanya, you could add in?
So I think the big drive for us during COVID was the telephony and CIC environment. So the drive for us was purely to have multiple channels to service our clients, and obviously the route that we went was to make sure that we secure communication with our customers during this difficult time. So the telephony side in the CIC environment was definitely our #1 priority. We also open up the WhatsApp lines and make sure that we've got the ability to handle the volumes of mails that is coming in.
Okay, yeah. And Tanya, your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, we took our lead obviously from King Price. You know, it was what worked for them and their business. So it was, I mean, the first priority is exactly what Francois said, was you got to keep those lines of communication open so customers can get hold of you, and more so that the team could get, you know, continue to engage with their customers during that time. So yeah, I'd say I'd support that.
Yeah, customer care is priority. Sales definitely took a far backseat during last year, and our focus was definitely making sure that we hear our customers and we are there on the other end of the line.
Got it. Did you have any technical challenges, Francois, in repurposing your legacy code to operate in the cloud? Was that a problem for you?
Definitely. So we've got an integration layer that we are using to communicate with our policy administration system. So the system that we are running within our environment is a self in-house developed system that we are very proud of, and definitely gives us an edge above our competitors. And it was important for us to find a technology that will fit in that environment.
Okay, thanks. And Tanya, I didn't hear the answer on, did you go private, public, and multi-cloud with a combination of on-prem? How did you structure this?
Francois, do you want to talk through because the only reason I defer is we've got kind of different setups. So what we deployed for Denmark was different to what we deployed for for the short-term insurance, and so there's a bit of a hybrid, I suppose. But you want to talk through the detail there?
Definitely. So King Price is invested in private cloud at the moment. So it is as part of this journey, we actually started with private cloud, and I wouldn't limit it to private cloud. I think there's a wonderful offer on the table, and we've been actively testing it and pursuing it for some of our other environments around public cloud as well. But currently, it is private cloud.
Understood. And then you obviously had a number of primary benefits that you were looking to gain from this. You've mentioned things like scalability, simplicity, speed, cost of ownership. Do you feel that you've achieved these cost benefits?
Yeah, I think the cost benefit chat is always it's quite a wide and intense one, because it is the same chat that we are having about what is the cost of not doing anything, and I think definitely the return on investment was definitely realized in the way that we are doing business and the way that we can scale the solution. And I think it is. I think only time will tell if we realize the benefit around cost. But I think it was definitely not a cost saving exercise. It was more investment in technology to give us scalability and sophistication within our environment.
Do you want to add to that, Tanya? Because often people do focus only on the cost side.
100%, and I think it's exactly the journey that we've taken with King Price was at no point was it ever a cost reduction exercise. So what it was is a right fit exercise, and that's why I said earlier, it's continually evolving. So as so we obviously are a Genesis house, and within that there's different products, and that sits in a different space. So for example, some are private cloud, etc. And I think together, what Francois and the team are doing are exploring these different options to understand what works for what portion of the business, what makes sense. But it is all about functionality, enabling scalability, enabling functionality, because that's ultimately what an IT solution is, right? It's only effective if it enables the business to achieve their strategy. So I think from my point of view, in the discussions that I've had with Francois, with the CTO, etc., it's been more about creating value and having, and driving, I suppose, creating a platform that will enable the innovation that King Price is known for. So it's definitely been more an investment strategy, and therefore what I term a value creation discussion rather than a cost. I think it will play out. So over time, exactly what Francois said. But King Price have invested significantly to get this working. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry, Francois, go ahead.
So I think the thing is, we, like any other business, we've got a big digital enablement strategy for our customers, and you need to lay the base for a lot of these technologies to get traction. And I think the thing is, if we are looking to move into a self-service environment, and we look at that digital enablement for our customers, we need to make sure that we've got multiple channels to service them on.
Got it. I've got another question on this benefits case argument, again from Glanville. He says, thank you, Herman and Francois, for your answers earlier. Moving to the cloud, are you finding that King Price customer experience has improved? And what is the feedback from the call center agents? How was moving to the cloud shifted the company culture at King Price?
So I think I think we moved from an open source system to a system that gives us ability to do workforce management, and it gives us a lot of insight on the floor that we never realized before. And I think it is, we spoke about it a little bit earlier when we started the POC in sales environment, and all of a sudden you've got all of this information that's popping up, and you don't necessarily have the bench around it. So I think that the insight around the environment is a big factor, and moving to the cloud and then moving workforce offsite has given us the ability to still have that insight on the floor, even though it is not in our building. And it definitely gives us the ability to manage our business a lot better. I think our talking back to the culture, I think culture is never connected to technology. I think we've got a solid culture, and it just gives us the ability to actually extend our way of working, and almost a new normal, as we would call it, to give our employees the ability to work from anywhere now.
Okay, thank you. And so, Tanya, why is 2021 the right time for companies to revisit their business strategy, whether it's moving to the cloud or not? What makes this year so special?
I almost want to say, why not, right? So I think if anything, 2020, and I'm going to coin it, it was such a pivotal year because a lot of companies that had been talking about moving to the cloud were caught unawares, were maybe left in a position where they were unable to service their customers using a voice channel. We've had a lot of examples of that in the industry where they had waited too long and to make the decision. And I think if anything, what case studies like this demonstrate is that it's possible. It's not as challenging as everyone thinks. It's the benefits are now. It's not theory, as you said. The benefits are very tangible. People can access use cases and speak to others. I mean, a lot of our, we do encourage our customers to chat to each other, and we do find, when people hear these type of things, they want to reach out and say, hey, can we talk to you about how you do this, and we can share how we do that. So I think the answer to that is, none of us know. I think if anything, COVID showed that none of us saw that. None of us predicted that. And it fundamentally changed the way we do business, and in some cases changed businesses. Some didn't survive. We know that. So I guess it's about, how companies, why it's important now is let's not get caught out again. We don't know what else could happen. So I think it is about being, proactive. It's about, and as I said earlier, it's about having that technology solution that ensures that you are able to respond to, a crisis, an event, your business, changing customers' behavior, buying behavior, channels, etc. And that is only going to be enabled, by, as you said, dealing with that Frankenstein and dealing with the fact that there are legacy systems that may not work for you anymore. And one of the things we alluded to, and I'll just take 2 minutes to unpack, is it's amazing how when you don't have the right solution in place, how people then create these very manual processes as workarounds, and it's never challenged, and yet they're completely inefficient, they're completely ineffective, they don't service the customer, they don't drive customer satisfaction, but it's so baked into how things are done. And when you do move to something like this, it's really an opportunity for everyone in the business, but driven by the executive leadership, to stand back and say, how, can we do things better? Can we, improve efficiencies and reduce costs and improve the way that we service our customers? And it's not going to happen if you sit in that legacy. In fact, if anything, what we've learned is you'll be left behind, and it will be a real, it can shut your business down.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm just pleased that COVID hit in 2020. If it had hit in 2005, I would have been running my life with SMSs, BBM, and 32K dial-up. The thought of that freaks me out.
Right? Absolutely.
Okay, so Francois, I mean, as we get to the end of this webinar, and folks, if there are any more questions that you have, please post them. I mean, I guess the question becomes: you and I are moving more and more into a hosted managed solution. I think is the expression that Tanya used. So, you know, what the heck do you and your CIO do? You know, someone said to me, when you move to cloud, you have to redefine what C, I, and O means, because C, I, and O now means career is over. I mean, is that correct? I don't know.
I don't think so, Arman. So I think we are all shifting a little bit left in the current business environment, and I think the role of traditional IT is moving more into business and less into technology almost. And I think what I'm seeing is that you've got guys that is business enablers that is sitting within IT departments at the moment that's got a real insight around how your business is functioning and how your data is structured today more than ever. And I think we've seen this during this project as well, where the understanding of what the business project looks like and what the impact of some of this data means. And I think IT is becoming just the extended function of business, and it's going to become the new normal for CIOs and CTOs to sit within business and have a hand in driving efficiencies and driving outcomes within business strategies, and no longer just isolated sitting in IT strategies anymore.
Fantastic, thank you. I guess in closing then, I mean, it's clear that you, I guess, on the internal IT side, are more about managing the systems, orchestrating, and holding people to SLAs and metrics. How important are things like skills? How do you manage those skills from an internal perspective? And Tanya, on your side as well, you know, what are you finding are the skills requirements that you need? Because things like, you know, managing new tools, you know, monitoring the system, fixing, managing upgrades, etc. What kind of skills are we looking at that we need both on the partner side and on the client side? Francois, do you want to go first?
So I like to drive almost it's standing on two legs, Arman. So the one is functional and non-functional skills. So my non-functional skills is talking about cloud and technology and service and lines and all of the house. And then I'm sitting with functional environments, which is the what. And I think a lot of the time business is doing the how quite well. I've got a very competent skill set within IT operations, but if I'm looking at call center management and software and talking back to data and dialers and handlers and the technology around call centers, I don't have enough skill sets that is driving this outcomes for me, and that is where I'm really leaning on partners like Tanya and the team to actually come in and give me the ability to actually drive these technologies and manage them within my environment.
And Tanya?
Yeah. Herman, I was going to say, we've seen a phenomenal change as well, because, you know, in the past it was if you had application skill sets, that was good enough. So if you could, you know, set up, manage the application, the Genesis contact center suite, like that was almost a tick, and it's not anymore. So what we're finding is that the competencies are becoming more complex, and in order to provide the services like we do to King Price, it's making sure that we belt and brace that kind of engineering application competency, but also with development skills. So, for example, people that you know, are able to, that have far broader, I'm going to call it logical thinking, but can put pieces together and understand how to create magic, you know, with all the moving parts around the application. And we've also shifted quite significantly in supporting. So, for example, my executive of support that works very closely with Francois used to be a call center manager, believe it or not, at least 20 years ago. But the point is that the people that are sitting in our exec teams and running, you our tech ops team, our dev team, our solutions team have a strong understanding of contact centers and the application, and then this kind of broader solution mindset, so that we can offer solutions and also understand, that, as I said earlier, when you troubleshoot and there's a problem or something happens, it's not always a linear thing, as we all know. It's broader than that. So we're finding that in our recruitment, in our development of our staff, in what we're looking for, it's a broader skill set, a broader IT skill set, and then understanding that we can train that application bit, as opposed to in the past was like, if you had the application bit, you were good.
Thank you. Thanks, Tanya. And I think that's, I wish we could carry on. We've unfortunately reaching the end of our time. It's been a wonderful working with two super engaged panel members. Tanya, thank you so much for sharing, I guess, the partner perspective, and Francois, your perspective as a client. Co-gladiators, if you hear that horribly tortured word, I own it. Just letting you know, putting it out there.
Francois. T-shirts and badges, I reckon.
Loving it.
And wonderful chatting with you both. Thank you so much. And Shireen, I'm going to hand back to you. And to the audience, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Herman, for moderating that. That was absolutely fantastic. And I think so many comments have popped up on the side saying, thank you so much. That was such an informative session. Tanya, Francois, I'm going to be joining you next week together with Pierre van Lelyveld. So I look forward to seeing you two next week. Thank you for joining us today. And to everyone who has joined on the webinar in the audience, thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for your chat and your comments and your questions. Please make sure that you do register for next week, Thursday. It is at 10 a.m. and we're going to be moving on to the challenges and the pitfalls and the triumphs that comes with cloud enablement. So we look forward to seeing you there. Herman, thank you so much once again for joining us. It's always fantastic having you with us. You're just the most insightful person we know. So thank you so much. And I will see everybody next week.
Thanks all. Take care now.
Everyone.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.